You know what? It's early access day, War Within launch day, the official kickoff of the World Soul Saga is beginning and everything else. And that's all fun to talk about. We've been talking about it all morning. But hey, what happens after the World Soul Saga? What's going to happen after Xal'atath and the Void Lords and everything else have been dispensed away with? Maybe what happens is WoW 2. Is WoW 2 happening? Azeroth reset after the World Soul Saga. Let's see what the Teller of Truths, the Truth Teller himself, Doran, has to say.
By all accounts, the World Soul Saga is a huge crossroads that is looking to wrap up World of Warcraft as we know it. Azeroth is very likely to awaken, and some giant, groundbreaking event will be happening where we're not just going to go back to normal life after the last Titan. Everyone has been coming for our World Soul, which is why we have been constantly been under an invasion, but after we free her, what else is there really to do? This saga could be a perfect bridge into WoW 2. Blizzard has been running multiple versions of the game at the same time, quite successfully with over 7 million subscribers. Recently, with Pandaria Remix, we've been running...
Yeah, 7 million subscribers. Anybody who still says dead game, I mean, I don't know. They just have a hatred in their soul, a deep void. Hatred that only the void itself could fill.
And 2 versions of retail at the same time, Chris Metzen said they're bringing in new 20 years of Warcraft, but could these new 20 years involve a new version of the game? Imagine our characters finally settle and we get Azeroth a few hundred years into the future, brand new characters, brand new cities, possibly new races. Azeroth would look completely different compared to now. They could dial down significantly on the gameplay complexity.
Man, imagine WoW ever looked like this. Imagine World of Warcraft like they did do a WoW 2, and shit looked like this. Like, this is what it looks like when a warrior is fighting a rogue.
On the gameplay
it would be epic, man. It would be crazy. I mean, obviously, you'd need like your 4070 Ti to be able to run shit like this on an MMO, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not opposed to the idea of a WoW 2. I'm not. I do think like a reset of things, you know, get rid of a lot of the bloat. It would be nice to go back to the beginning times of being an adventurer and just wandering around and all that stuff. I miss those days. Now, nostalgia always puts rose-colored glasses on. It wouldn't be perfect, of course. But I do think like a WoW 2, it could be a nice reset. A lot of people don't want to lose their transmog and their mounts and everything. And I think there's a way to kind of keep some of that, keep it going. But eventually there has to be a reset at some point, right?
Introduce amazing next-gen graphics and build a brand new type of an MMO that might not even be your typical MMO RPG. So could we see WoW 2 after the World Soul Saga? While WoW could get WoW 2, Guild Wars 2 has already gotten a new expansion called Jantir Wilds. I've checked it out myself and I will be making a full video on it in the next few days that you can check out, but so far there's so many features currently going on. A housing system is here, account-wide personal land.
Guild Wars 2 has Giga Chad pandas? They have Giga Chad Pandaren? Holy crap, look at these guys. Yeah, with the sarongs too. Bearcocks hanging out. All right. Yeah, this game's looking good.
Housing system is here, account-wide personal land for you, your friends, and guild members, where you can decorate your home as you wish. Until recently, spear combat was only underwater, but now it is coming to land combat as well. Now, as one of the most acclaimed features of the game, this expansion is also bringing updated Warclaw acquisition and its own mastery line. Most importantly, of course, the 5th Guild Wars 2 expansion is bringing you to the fabled Isles of Jantir that was until recently thought to have been too dangerous to navigate. However, now not only can you access it, but you can also find new allies. So make sure to click my link in the description and join in on the newest Guild Wars 2 expansion, the Jantir Wilds.
All right. Guild Wars got an expansion too.
WoW 2 has been going on for ages. You must have seen it a million times and a million different versions of updated WoW graphics, concept for a new World of Warcraft, but it's almost always really been something that is really outlandish, something that seems a little bit unhinged and unrealistic, and that Blizzard would never really do it. They would just ruin the current main game.
Blizzard would never do. Look, here's the thing, to be completely honest, it's not a Blizzard decision anymore. I think the decision for a WoW 2 would come down from Microsoft one day. And it's because they invested in, Activision Blizzard to not only, they get Call of Duty and all that shit, but they wanted to enter the MMO sphere. I think a lot of these tech companies care a lot about being in the MMO world. Look at Amazon and how they just pump out all these MMOs. Everyone's trying to get their share of the MMO market because really, with the internet and say what you want about VR and all that shit, but just like the internet as a whole, MMOs are really the future. They are. A lot of people don't believe me when I say shit like that. Some people call it a dead genre, but I actually think MMOs are just beginning their renaissance. It's just really starting to kick off and take off. And part of the reason why Microsoft bought them was because of World of Warcraft. They officially have the best MMO, the king of MMOs, right? So if they ever saw numbers drop off in a certain way or the game dying, best believe they are not going to let their investment in Activision Blizzard just die. They'll come down from the top and they'll be like, guys, it's time. We need a new MMO from you. This is why we bought you. You're the best at making them. Make the WoW 2. Make it. And they would just have to do it.
World of Warcraft. However, a lot of things had changed over the years, and especially recently. I remember a few years ago people were saying that WoW Classic being a separate game was an outlandish concept. There's no way Blizzard is going to have 2 versions of World of Warcraft running. But here we are now with 3 versions of the game currently going on, and now with Remix being a thing, so literally almost 2 versions of retail happening at the same time. Best of all, it's actually working out really well for them.
It is
a few months
working
ago
out.
we got a graph from a game developer conference where Blizzard confirmed they got over 7 million active subscribers for...
And you want to know how you know it's working out? You guys want to know how you know that it worked? Their plan worked, in fact, to split World of Warcraft down. Because a lot of people said, why'd they do that? They killed their game. They're splitting their player base, and player base is important for World of Warcraft. Guys, look at this shit. Look at Twitch right now. Almost like freaking all these top guys were just playing Classic for the longest time. And now, what are they doing? They're in the waiting room for the War Within. I literally saw one of these guys yesterday. He was like Classic Andy going back to retail. Like that was his title, and he had like 2K viewers. I forgot who it was. It might have been Zaryu or something. Anyways, like that. Those are the things that you're seeing now because Blizzard kept these players active, right? They kept them subscribed. They kept them in love with WoW. And knowing that the day an expansion drops, guess what? They're all coming back to retail. And now whether they stay in retail or not depends on if this is a good expansion or not. But they kept them subbed, and it's just that easy for them to switch over and play.
Just World of Warcraft across the various versions, which
They
is
come back for a
actually
week or
crazy,
two?
as everyone was
Maybe.
believing that the numbers were not more than a
Maybe.
few million. So this brings us to World of Warcraft 2 being an actual possibility, and they now have an actual infrastructure on how it could happen. It isn't just a shot in the dark. Now, WoW has one big problem, and that is that it is now 20 years old, and it will be going on for much longer with at least the next 3 expansions of the World Soul Saga.
Yeah.
It is great, but realistically with all the expansions, it's ridiculously complex for a brand new player to get into. Just the lore side of things is insane. There are dozens of books, comics, short stories, hundreds of cinematics, but that is really the least amount of their worries. Gameplay is really the biggest problem, as with all the classes, the specs, now the hero talents, it takes hundreds of hours to become competent and understand the game mechanics for new players. Of course, Blizzard has been doing a lot
I will say, going back, I'm very thankful for the fact that my dad's friend, who was the first person to ever show me World of Warcraft, I still remember 2004, this guy used to work at Circuit City, complete nerd, amazing guy, my idol at that point. He showed me World of Warcraft. I still remember Night Elf on a lightsaber running through the forest. He was a Night Elf hunter, and he was showing me how he would use his like a shadow meld ability and then aim shot people and kill them. It was amazing. I fell in love with the game instantly. Begged my dad for like a year to allow us to subscribe for World of Warcraft, and he finally did, and in 2005 I started playing the game. I'm so grateful that I started playing back then, because most definitely it was way easier to pick up WoW in 2005 and get into it, especially because everybody was a fucking noob at that point. Get into it, learn the game, learn how to play an MMO, because it was my first one, and really just enjoy World of Warcraft as an MMO for what it was. Today, if somebody joins the game, it's a bit tougher. It is. There's a lot more systems to learn, a lot more to understand. All these guides on the internet you got to read up on and shit. Like, back then, the internet was still pretty fresh in terms of, like, guides and min-maxing. That shit didn't exist back in 2005. People just played. Now it's different. And, you can't recapture that, but maybe they can make it easier again with a WoW 2 to get started. Who knows?
things lately with completely revamping the leveling, you essentially being able to skip all the expansions, but the reality is that WoW has a mind-blowing amount of content. This is, of course, not a bad thing at all, but it can definitely be a bit overwhelming to a new audience. One of the realities is that the average WoW player is much older than the average gamer, and most people that are currently playing the game are the
Hey, what is he talking? I'm 34. Yes, I'm balding, but that doesn't mean I'm older. What's the average gamer these days? Well, I guess you got shit like Fortnite probably taking the average age down to like 12 or something. Are we old? Are WoW players just a very old player base? I've looked at my viewership age before on YouTube. Yeah, most of my viewers are like 30 to 44. Like that's my quintessential like viewer base. And then yeah, I've got more like pew pew. I got more people in their 50s than I do at like 18 or less watching me. So yeah, I guess we're old. Yeah, most of us are in our 30s and 40s probably. Yeah, shit, we're old and rickety. We are.
Same people that have been playing the game the past 10, 15, 20 years. In fact, so many people have quit the game over the years that Blizzard literally has a large pool of potential returning players, that this is now one of their main marketing audiences right now. This is the big reason.
It is crazy when you think about it. I started playing this game when I was 15. I was 15 when I started playing this game. Just a freaking prepubescent piece of shit playing WoW and jerking off all the time. And now I'm 34. I'm married. Right? I'm married. I've got 3 kids, 4th out of the way. I got a mortgage and shit. My God. I mean, I'm Anduin now. Look at me. I'm Anduin. This picture of Anduin describes me now. Whereas before I was like the little boy in the king. Hey, have you seen my father? Yeah, me and Anduin, we aged together.
Why they're constantly teasing the return of the old characters that the players are familiar with. You can see
Still
this
jerking
with
and
the
playing
artists in Ragnarok's pre-patch, which is not really all that relevant to the World Soul Saga and to the War Within, but it is great nostalgia bait. However, realistically, by the time the World Soul Saga ends, WoW is going to be over 25 years old, which is technically a quarter of a century, and WoW 2 might be a good way to bring in a new influx of players with a new game mode. And let me just list a few reasons why I think this might actually be possible from a completely realistic perspective. First of all, Blizzard was recently bought by Microsoft that seems a bit more interested in keeping the franchise active and thriving, which is definitely...
Who was this saying? Monarch, you were saying they said they did not buy the game for World of Warcraft. Of course they did not just buy it for World of Warcraft, but you're really going to tell me that one of Blizzard Activision's main revenue sources, one of their largest revenue sources. Now, I know King and all that mobile games, huge, of course. But you're really going to tell me World of Warcraft was not a consideration in buying Activision Blizzard? It had to be. It was the mobile. Yeah, I know that. I know mobile is highly profitable. It is a money-generating machine. But I promise you, on a Microsoft spreadsheet, when they were giving a valuation for Activision Blizzard, World of Warcraft was part of it. And it was one of the bigger parts of it, no doubt. Was it the biggest? No, I'm not going to sit here and ego stroke myself. I know it wasn't. But it was certainly one of the core parts of it.
Different from the previous owners that were mainly focused on just squeezing the short-term profits. Second is that you might have noticed Blizzard has constantly been experimenting with new features and new game modes, and these seem like probes for upcoming projects. For example, Zerla Caverns, the huge cave system in Dragonflight, was essentially a test for what they added now in the War Within, the entire
100%
expansion
it was.
essentially. After that, they did something completely out of nowhere, which was Plunderstorm, which was essentially a game within a game. And
Plunderstorm was fun,
man. In order to gauge interest from the audience. Furthermore, they also did the entire Pandaria remix thing, which kind of came out of nowhere, and it was yet another version of WoW, but with kind of different gameplay, which I think personally could have been a little probe of WoW 2. They reused the old content but brought a new spin to it with different ways to experience it in a more streamlined manner, and now they're kind of sitting back and gathering the data. However, the biggest reason I'm even making this video in the first place is that I think
early access charb starts in 10 hours. 10 hours.
World Soul Saga could turn out to be something akin to a bridge into WoW 2 just by the way they're setting things up. Hear me out. Yeah, at the end of Shadowlands, they did the entire cringe of this being the end of the first saga of Warcraft, and now they're doing a second one, but this one seems like an actual saga, and it does seem like they're actually wrapping things up. I'm almost certain that after the Last Titan, something big is going to happen, either an expansion drastically different or WoW 2. You might remember Chris Metzen and BlizzCon BlizzCon and how he not only returned to assist for this expansion, but to bring in a new era of not just WoW, but Warcraft. Now, he was talking about how he's most excited to talk about something that isn't going to be announced on this current BlizzCon. They were saying how they're tying up the loose ends and how the World Soul Saga is setting up the next 20 years of Warcraft. Additionally, they gave us a time.
But what does that mean? Does he mean the next 20 years of a different Warcraft or the next 20 years of this war? That was the whole thing about when he was saying that. Does he mean a WoW 2 or does he mean something else? And then yesterday in his interview that we watched, he talked about like 17.0 or 17 years, 17. He said the number 17 in terms of the future of WoW. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, but clearly they have a plan laid out. And whether that's a 2 on the end of WoW or just continuing this game in a new direction, a new saga-style direction, who knows? But there's a plan. There's a plan, and World Soul Saga is basically the start of that plan.
Timeline that this saga should finish by 2030, but very likely earlier than that, which is right around the 25-year mark. Now, I know this sounds a bit crazy, but the World Soul Saga is so much different than any other WoW expansion that we had ever actually seen. Until recently, we were always dealing with some type of an invasion or some big bad, but the World Soul Saga is essentially wrapping all that up and saving Azeroth for good, and some such monumental events are going to happen, which are
That's the thing, like, it's like the Infinity Saga ending, right? Like, you finish off Thanos, you finish off the Void Lords. What the hell happens after that? Now, Marvel themselves, they got lost for a while, man, with all this shit going on, and Kang Dynasty, they're not sure which direction they're gonna go. You know, all these different flop movies, these shitty movies they were dropping, and then they redirected, they're like, here he comes. We're bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, Doctor Doom, he's the big bad. We're starting a new saga. And it seems like they're finally back on track. Deadpool's a great movie. But it took them a while. They floundered for a while after they basically finished off their biggest villain. Is that going to happen with WoW? They can't afford to flounder, honestly. They have to have their shit together after this saga. So we'll see. It's going to be a big moment for this game.
Not just going to bring us back to normal life. Just check out the actual logo progression. First, we got the continents of Azeroth breaking, and keep in mind, WoW logos always have the continents, but the Midnight logo has no continents, and it is one gigantic
K1,
portal.
that's amazing,
After
actually.
that, the rings are fixed, and we revealed what appears to be a pristine Titan prison. Chris Metzen said, we will reveal a gigantic conspiracy that spans thousands of years and involves the entire universe. We've been talking about Azeroth Awakening for the longest time and what would happen to the planet, but it does seem like that is actually going to happen soon, and we will witness it in the game. Reese the Chronicle book confirmed Azeroth is not a Titan, but a neutral being that the Void wants to awaken, and very likely at midnight they succeed, but then we might reveal the Titan prison over Azeroth. By the time we defeat the Void and the Titans, it's very likely that Azeroth is actually going to awaken, and this should drastically change the world. It is literally going to change everything. I don't think Azeroth is technically going to break apart and we're all going to be washed away in this awakening, but I think after we release the World Soul, we will free her from all the future invasions. The reason we're getting invaded by everyone and their mother every 2 years is because everyone wants the World Soul, everyone of the entire universe. After this World Soul Saga ends, that is really the end. Like,
here's another thing about the World Soul Saga ending. What about power creep? Like, how much, what kind of, eventually we're gonna fight a Void Lord? I don't know how they're gonna handle that fight. To me, even the thought of mortals fighting a Void Lord just seems intensely overpowered. But okay, we deal with a Void Lord. We got so immensely powerful that we were able to push back the Void. What next? What, we go back to killing wolves in Goldshire? How does that shit work? Unless you have like a reset of the game. I don't know, because it is an issue. The power creep stuff is an issue.
There's no demand anymore for Azeroth.
We're not fighting a Void Lord. Well, we're stopping the summoning of the Void Lord, I guess. Even still, we're fighting massive entities now. I mean, if we fight a Titan, if we do end up fighting a Titan, my God, what happens? What do we do after that? What do you do?
The perfect opportunity to introduce WoW 2. World of
Probably
Warcraft
just an
has
avatar
satisfying
like a
25 years. We've been defending Azeroth non-stop, and finally we had succeeded. Now the actual denizens can go back to living their life because they've been in planet destroying wars non-stop. Like, it's
Libor, thank you for the sub, man. Welcome to
I guess
Death
you can
Knight.
have my free sub.
Appreciate it.
It's surprising how everyone was even able to grow up at this point. Now,
Probably kill KT
I don't think
again,
there will be a big sundering that is going to wipe out Azeroth with a fresh slate, but WoW 2 could be set up maybe like a few hundred years into the future, which would give us a huge fresh start. We still got the same iconic continents, but so much would change. Almost the entire roster of characters would change. It would give them huge opportunities to introduce new figures, new lore, as keep in mind, Blizzard is constantly struggling with tying everything together with the old lore.
Here's the thing though, the one thing that I worry about, do I trust current Blizzard as it currently stands? Now Metzen's back, so maybe things will be better. I mean, Xal'atath, I personally like her. Some people don't. I've seen it because she's a chick and they're like, all this chick power shit's getting old, but I actually think she's a well-written chick, okay? There's a difference between having female leads just for, just to kick out male leads, and you could tell when it's happening. Like, society's not dumb. We're not idiots. We know when shit's just being replaced for no reason other than, to throw the other gender in there. But Xal'atath herself, she's well-built. She's got her own shit going on. She's not basically riding the coattails of any male leads. She is her own person, and it's pretty cool. She's a great villain. I enjoy everything Xal'atath has to offer so far. But in terms of, like, look at Sourfang, Varian, these classic WoW characters, Thrall. Do I trust Blizzard as it currently stands to reset and give us all new characters, a whole new cast? I don't know, man. I'd be scared. Honestly. Like, if Metzen's there, I have a little bit more faith than if he wasn't. But it'd be worrisome, because we need some big boys. We need some big testosterone-filled men in this game, and I don't know if they would be willing to do that.
Importantly, we would have next generation graphics, which would be a big thing for World of Warcraft. Imagine WoW built in like 2030 with graphics that are yet to come. I don't think WoW would ever really switch to hyper-realistic scenario, but we've seen some really interesting interpretations of what this could look like, even in the current version of Unreal Engine, and it is definitely impressive.
By the way, Blizzard does not just have a reputation for killing great male leads. They fucked Sylvanas up, let's be honest. Sylvanas was like the best female lead in the game for the longest time, and they completely screwed up her story arc, unfortunately.
Now, keep in mind, if
they do it both ways.
200 years into the future, literally everything would change. Maybe something new is coming for Azeroth. Some of the races that recently came, like the Draenei, are going to be long settled at that point. We will have a bunch of really well-developed new cities. Some old ones might change, some new ones might be built. They might even be able to introduce new races. Most importantly, they would have completely open hands to alter the combat, maybe go for something more akin to an RPG, as opposed to the current, tag mechanics with the MMORPG version.
N'Zoth wakes up and it was all in our minds. Imagine this. Picture this, because we all know, by the way, the old gods, they themselves they were sent out right to do the Void Lord's bidding, to prepare planets for the eventual consumption by a Void Lord. But old gods don't really care to get to that final ending. They don't want that, actually. They just want to rule as lords of the worlds that they've been attached to at this point. What if N'Zoth actually, yes, like you said, put us to sleep? And at this point, we've just been in a stasis this entire time. We go through this entire saga and we lose. Planet gets devoured by a Void Lord. Everyone dies in it, and that's it, right? A reset. And N'Zoth comes forward, reveals what has happened, and says, "This is one of the many truths I have seen, and if you don't prepare for it properly, this is the way things will end. We start over, young boy in a farm, killing wolves, and we have to understand that our end game is to once again deal with this Void Lord threat, but now we know exactly what's coming, and we know what will happen if we continue down the path we were last time. It's time to reset it all and get better." Man, I wouldn't be mad if that's what happened, honestly. That would be cool.
Would be open to redo.
He is the ultimate planner, after all.
Different classes, different specs,
and he would want us to stop the Void Lords because he dies along with us if that happens.
A completely different system that doesn't even exist right now. It could also be more narrative-based, like MMORPG, something similar to Elder Scrolls Online. Yes. On the other hand, it might not even have to be based on Azeroth. We could be going into some type of a new planet, like we went to Outland. It could introduce everything that would be completely different. Now, from that perspective, from the realistic perspective, we would have two scenarios for regular retail. Either they could wrap up and WoW is now maintained with a skeleton crew, or they just get different teams. Just like like how they're sort of building Classic with new game modes, they could introduce new types of game modes and even some new storylines to the regular game. It's just that WoW would no longer be in the main spotlight in retail with the new expansions. I know at this point it might get crazy, but having WoW Classic, WoW Retail, and WoW 2 going on at the same time wouldn't really at all sound all that insane. I mean, they even released Overwatch 2, which, while of course not similar technically, it is from Blizzard, although obviously not the best example.
I can't imagine them dividing the retail player base. I don't think that would ever happen. I understand Classic, it's got its place, and Classic, Plus, which is basically, what's it called? Man, freaking whatever it's called. These Classic versions and stuff of the game, they are just basically offshoots of retail at the end of the day. Everyone comes back to retail, so I can't imagine the core of the game being divided into two. That doesn't make sense to me.
The only downside is that I'm not really sure how big MMORPGs will be, especially in the future. This entire MMORPG craze really went away nearly a decade.
What is the metaverse at the end? All this shit that these, big corporate CEOs talk about. They always attach stupid-ass terms to shit. What is the metaverse? It's a fucking MMO. It's an MMO. They just wanted to put a new name on it. The metaverse is a damn MMO. Ready Player One, that's a fucking MMO. That's the future. MMOs are the future of gaming. Now, yes, they've had their ebbs and flows throughout time, and there'll always be a place for single-player adventure games and stuff like that. But when it comes to the big box title, the big boys of the world, it's MMOs. That's what a metaverse is. It's just a freaking MMO. And trust me, that's part of the reason why Microsoft was interested in WoW.
Ago, and currently it has a steady audience, but it's not like the mainstream is going to go crazy over MMORPGs like they did back when PvC was around. This could be why WoW 2 might actually be a good thing. It might not even have to be an MMORPG of the exact same concept like just WoW with updated graphics, but they could literally turn it into a different type of a multiplayer game, like some type of an MMO hybrid. This WoW 2 talk has been going on for well over 10 years, but I do think we really are in an interesting crossroads here with the new Saga concept and the way they really seem to be wrapping up World of Warcraft in its current form, which could mean that it is actually possible. Thank you for watching. Check out a glimpse at the new content of Azeroth by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Ancient Training by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah, I mean, we got straight into it. I mean, the future of WoW, what it could be, what it probably won't be. WoW 2 is going to create itself. Essentially, there's either going to be a need for it that Microsoft's going to call upon and say, you know what, you guys are making a dead game, it's time to make WoW 2, or World of Warcraft is just going to infinitely continue because they figure out a way to kind of pivot off the World Soul Saga into, well, I guess like a WoW 1.5 you could call it, which is like a new version of the same game.